Imagine you're a grieving parent who hasn't seen their teenage daughter in 9 months. She simply leaves one day on a bike ride and never comes home. But then, out of nowhere, a friend calls. They say they saw her on TV. There's a Polaroid making the rounds, and in the photo, 2 kids are tied up, gagged, and visibly terrified in the back of a cargo van. One of them looks just like your daughter. There's even a copy of her favorite book in the frame and a mark on her leg that's identical to the one she has. The only problem is this Polaroid was found in Florida, roughly 1,500 miles from where you live in New Mexico. Now, if it is your daughter, how did she get there? Who took her? And more importantly, who has her now? What happened to Tara Calico? And what is the story with this creepy picture? Let's recap. 19-year-old Tara Calico vanishes on September 20th, 1988. Some people think she's trafficked, others think she's a victim of a satanic cult, or maybe her disappearance is some kind of accident and cover-up. Not everyone thinks this Polaroid is her, but if it is her, she was definitely taken. She grew up in Belen, New Mexico. It's a small town about 35 miles south of Albuquerque. She was a sophomore at the University of New Mexico, rocking a 3.9 GPA with dreams of becoming a psychiatrist someday. She's the youngest in a blended family, brought together when her mom, Patty, marries her stepdad, John. Now, Tara's a planner. She's a stickler for schedules. The morning starts like any other, with a 17-mile bike ride along State Route 47, down to the old railroad tracks and back. By 12:30, she planned to meet her boyfriend for a tennis game. Then at 4 p.m., it's off to class. She'd already laid out her tennis clothes and rewound her favorite cassette. But there's a small snag. Her bike has a flat, so she has to borrow her mom's. It's this neon pink mountain bike with yellow cables. Like, impossible to miss. It's the brightest ride in the county. So before she leaves, she tells her mom, if I'm not back by noon, come and get me. At 9:30 a.m., she hits the road, her Sony Walkman blasting Boston in her ears. Her family never sees her alive again. It's 12:05 and Patty starts to worry. John has just come home from his late shift at the Santa Fe Railway and he's about to fall asleep when Patty bursts into the room yelling that Tara hasn't made it back. So they immediately hit the road, searching up and down Route 47. Now the highway is this straight, empty stretch. No trees, barely any buildings, only a few intersections. You can see 4 miles. That neon pink mountain bike should have been impossible to miss. But it's nowhere in sight. All they find is Tara's broken Boston cassette lying on the shoulder of the road. The police get involved, and they later discover her Sony Walkman about 20 miles east of Belen. It's damaged, like it was tossed from a moving car. Now, Patty's convinced Tara was kidnapped. She thinks her smart daughter dropped the Walkman and the tape on purpose, leaving a trail of breadcrumbs to help someone find her. But it's not going to be that easy, as Tara's age quickly becomes a hurdle in the investigation. As a legal adult, she technically does have the right to disappear without telling anyone. Without clear evidence of a crime, there's not a lot that police can do. So they talk to witnesses who say that they saw Tara riding her bike that morning. One even remembers this super creepy detail. There was a 1953 old Ford pickup with a camper attached following her on Route 47. The truck was close enough to make people think like, why is that truck so close? So people think Tara probably never even heard it creeping behind her thanks to the music blasting from her Walkman. The last confirmed sighting of her alive is around 11:45 a.m. as she's heading back home. So that little detail is enough for police to believe that, yeah, something terrible happened. Tara planned to return home. So whatever happened, it had to be in that brief 20 minutes between 11:45 and 12:05. Because whoever took her didn't just take Tara, they took the bike too. And despite years of searching, police have never found a single trace of it. Now, her family spent weeks looking for her. Cops brought out helicopters. They brought out the dogs, but they didn't find a thing. All they had to go on were crazy theories about Satanists, fertility rituals, but no hard evidence pointing in any direction. Not even to a group of actual devil worshippers. Like, if this is Satanism, then show me the devil worshippers. Not even them. June 15, 1989. Tara Calico has been missing for nearly 9 months. Then one day, about 1,500 miles from Belen, in Port St. Joe, Florida, a woman pulls into the parking lot of a junior food store off Route 98. The woman parks next to a white Toyota cargo van with no windows. So I'm already scared. She does her shopping, but when she returns, the cargo van is gone, and this Polaroid picture is left behind in the vacant space. The woman flips it over and immediately calls the police, as one would. All she remembers about the van's driver is that he looked like he was in his 30s and he had a mustache, maybe? The Polaroid goes viral by, late 80s standards. It makes an appearance on the TV show A Current Affair. Now, friends of Tara's family see the episode and call Patty and John. The girl with her mouth tape looks an awful lot like Tara. Don't you think? See that blemish on the girl's right calf? Her mom says it looks like a scar Tara got in a car accident when she was a kid. And take a look at this. See that book next to her? That's a copy of V.C. Andrews' My Sweet Audrina. It's one of Tara's favorite books. But I know what you're thinking. And according to her mom, Tara did not have a copy on her when she left on her bike. But somebody couldn't buy her a copy? Some benevolent kidnapper or something? I don't know. It's weird. Now, early on, some people thought the boy in the photo might be 9-year-old Michael Henley from New Mexico. Also from New Mexico. Michael disappeared on April 21, 1988, during a camping trip in the Zuni Mountains with his family. As the story goes, Michael wandered off while the adults were setting up camp. Now, police figured he got lost in the thick wilderness. His father reported him missing, but a heavy snowstorm rolled in before search teams could fully mobilize, burying any potential leads. But despite extensive searches, no sign of Michael ever turned up until the Polaroid. Now, desperate for answers, Michael's and Tara's families, they go to Florida to examine the picture for themselves. Now, both families believe they're looking at a photo of their missing kids. And both families went back to New Mexico thinking, well, at least our kids are still alive. Unfortunately, the Henleys soon learned differently. In June of 1990, Michael's remains were found about 7 miles from the family campsite. Police think he died of exposure. So if that's not Michael in the Polaroid, are we still sure it's Tara? I mean, it sure looks like her, doesn't it? But not everyone thinks so. The FBI calls it inconclusive. Scotland Yard says it's her, while the Los Alamos National Laboratory says it's not. There are some things that don't quite add up when you take a closer look at the photo. So first, let's talk about the girl's shoulders. The lead investigator points out that if her hands were tied really tightly behind her back, her shoulders would show signs of strain. But in this image, that's not what we see. It's possible that her hands aren't tied at all. She might just be sitting on them. And then there's the tape over their mouths. If it had been there for any length of time, they say that we should expect to see redness or irritation, but there isn't any, which suggests the tape was applied recently. And also, if that's not Michael, then who is that boy? And if that's not Tara, then who is that girl? As of right now, nobody has positively identified the kids in the photo, which is also very weird. Because even if it was somebody's idea of a sick joke, would you not say, hey, that's me, sorry, it was a joke? You should also know that the Polaroid had to have been taken after May of 1989 because the type of film used that didn't exist before then. But it's not the only weird photo. 2 others surfaced shortly after this one. The first other weird photo was found near a construction site in Montecito, California. It shows a blurry image of a girl's face. Her mouth it looks like it's covered in duct tape. Now, Patty's convinced this is another picture of Tara. She points to the girl's hairline, claiming it has the same calic over her right temple. She also points out the girl's eyes. She says that one lazy pupil is symmetrical to the other, just like Tara's. A second photo comes out in 1990, and this time it shows a woman on an Amtrak train sitting next to a man. Now this one, I don't know. Her hands are loosely tied, her eyes are covered with gauze, and she's wearing oversized black frame glasses. Now, Patty isn't convinced that this one is Tara. She thinks it could just as easily be a joke or a stage shot because it kind of really does have that look to it. And both photos have been widely circulated in blogs and tabloids, but there's no confirmation they're real. So far, no similar images have surfaced from more, credible sources like, the New York Times. But another popular rumor is that Tara Calico fell victim to David Parker Ray. Oh, God, you guys. He's known as the Toy Box Killer. His twisted family's ranch wasn't far from where Tara vanished. Now, he is a truly terrifying character. And if you haven't seen that recap, be sure to check it out with the doors locked. God, that's a horrible one. But David Ray, thank God, was caught and convicted of kidnapping and torture in 2001 after one of his victims escaped. Girl, you have to see this. You got to see the episode. It's insane. And he died of a heart attack in 2002 so he is fully in hell now before police could question him more about his other victims. So it's not clear who else fell victim to him. But the FBI ruled him out as a suspect. He was known to keep a detailed ledger of his victims, and at no point did he write anything that they felt was related to Tara's abduction. So her case goes cold in the early 90s, and by 1998, a judge officially declares her dead, ruling it a homicide. Could Tara have been killed in a hit and run? According to the county sheriff, 2 teenage boys who may have known Tara accidentally hit her while she was riding her bike. He claims they were trying to pull a prank. Remember that truck that got very, very close? But they got too close, turning their joke into a tragic accident. Now, Tara was reportedly injured, but still alive after this hypothetical accident. And in a panic, the boys allegedly killed her and hid her body somewhere outside of town. Now, the sheriff says that he knows who the 2 boys, now they're grown men, are, but without solid evidence, he can't pursue charges. But that may have changed in 2023. Because in June of that year, the county sheriff's department announced they knew what happened to Tara Calico. They say that they recently uncovered evidence pointing to 2 or more persons of interest, and now it's in the DA's hands. Now, more than that, they haven't said, except for the fact that they believe the truth is closer than ever, and the suspects in Tara's case have been part of the community all along. So maybe it really was a horrible hit and run and then a murder. But according to local reporting, a lot of people think that the former sheriff's department was corrupt and an officer's son might have been involved in her disappearance, which is why it was never solved back then. Now, the old regime, of course, has denied these allegations. As for the new regime, they're confident in their case, but unfortunately, examining 35 years worth of evidence takes a long time. They also have to operate under laws that were in effect back then. So to sign off on charges, the DA's office has to rule out a laundry list of other suspects, and as of right now, this recording, they have not yet reached a conclusion. Hopefully they find one soon and Tara's killers are brought to justice. What's your theory? Let's talk about it in the comments. And if you like getting all the crime in half the time, give this a like and remember to subscribe so you never miss a recap. I'm Amy. Chris and I are here 3 times a week with new stories, and you should also definitely check out our membership options. So if that sounds good to you, we would love to have you join us. Take care.